Hey, what's up, everybody? We are back again, and today we are once again going to be talking about the man himself, Lucki. Now, if you're not aware of who this guy is, or if you need a little bit of a refresher on his lore, I actually have another video on this channel where I talk about his entire career. In that video, I go way more into detail about his early life, his come up, how he eventually popped off, how he fell off, and eventually came back. However, seeing as how that was a lot more of a positive video, I neglected to mention a lot of the more negative aspects of Lucki in his career, namely the beefs that he got into. And surprisingly, despite the persona that Lucki puts off of just being a happy fat guy who loves making music and doing drugs, he actually has gotten into quite a few beefs, and surprisingly, they all kind of connect to each other in one way or another. And that's exactly what we're going to be looking into today when we cover the many beefs of Lucki. Now, to get started, we have to go all the way back to 2019, or even a little bit before that to give you context. Now, as most people already know, Lucki got his start in the world of music back in Chicago, working with people like Chief Keef and Chance the Rapper. However, he only really started to gain momentum once he ended up moving to LA and connecting to people like Playboi Carti. And Carti in particular was very instrumental in his entire career, as he was actually the one who taught him how to rap over trap beats and make that more psychedelic sounding style, which to a lot of classic Lucki fans is actually a negative because they like it a lot more when he raps like Chance the Rapper compared to somebody like Carti. But despite that, it was this style that he picked up in LA that would eventually pop him off in a big way and make him into the massive artist that he is nowadays. And no, I'm not talking about his weight, it was the lean that made him fat, not the Carti verses. And on top of helping him hone his style, he also helped him form a lot of connections with many different artists in the area, including Splur Gang, which as you already know was comprised of 3 members, Thousand Band Fani, Uno the Activist, and of course Carti himself. And on top of that, Carti would also help Lucki get connected to the ASAP mob because during that period, Carti was heavily fucking with them and he was helping his friends get connected to the mob as well, including Uno and, well, Lucki. However, Carti wasn't the only one that was helping out Lucki in his early career because Uno and Fani were also pretty instrumental in helping him get established in LA by allowing him to open at a lot of their shows and build up a fan base through that. On top of that, Lucki has created way more music with the two of them than he ever has with Carti, which really isn't too out of the ordinary, as at the time, Carti only ever seemed to want to work with people who were bigger than him and very rarely anybody who was smaller, which put Lucki in kind of a weird spot when the beef between Playboi Carti and Uno the Activist popped off, because after all, he was a lot closer to Uno the Activist, but while Playboi Carti had done a lot to help out his career. Now, if you're not aware of what happened between Carti and Uno, I've talked about it countless times, but I will cover it one more time just so you understand everything that went down here. Basically, when Carti started fucking with ASAP Mob, he stopped messing with Uno and Fani so much. But despite seemingly leaving Splur Gang in the past, it did seem like Carti wanted to help Uno get put on by the mob as well. Unfortunately though, everything would go sour in late 2016 when another affiliate going by the name of Bloody Dior would get into a physical altercation with Uno that unfortunately led to Uno getting shot and hospitalized. And of course, you would think that after all of that went down, Carti would take Uno's side and leave the mob, but he wasn't willing to leave behind everything that he had built up over the past couple years for a beef that he felt he didn't have anything to do with. And you can kind of understand where Carti's coming from, but you can also understand why Uno is pretty pissed off about all of this, and he would immediately start tweeting at Carti, calling him a snake, saying that he sold out his own brothers for clout, and a lot more, which basically left everybody in the middle to have to take his side. Of course, Thousand Band Fani would take Uno's side because the two of them have been working together for years at this point, and I don't think Fani and Carti were ever that close, whereas Lucki was kind of stuck in the middle. Now, initially, Lucki would lean more towards Uno and Fani's side, thinking that Carti definitely had pulled some pretty snaky behavior. However, he wouldn't publicly denounce them or try to break their connection in any way. However, it doesn't really matter whose side that Lucki ended up taking, because during the time that all of this was going down, he actually ended up taking a pretty big break away from music to try to focus on his mental health, get off of drugs, and raise his son, who was recently born. And you would think with all this time away from music that his fan base would mostly forget about him. I mean, after all, he missed a lot of 2016 and 2017, which were primary years for the SoundCloud wave. However, that couldn't be farther from the truth, because by the time that Lucki came back to making music, his fan base hadn't gone anywhere, and if anything, they had only grown stronger and couldn't wait to hear something new. And Lucki would capitalize on this by dropping mixtape after mixtape after mixtape, with each new one getting more and more popular than the last, all leading up to the release of his project Free Wave 3, which of course was a sequel to 2 of his other popular mixtapes. However, the third installment would completely blow the other 2 out of the water and become his most commercially successful project to date. However, unfortunately, with Lucki being an independent artist, we can't really look at the sales data and how it did on its first week, week, but just by looking at the streams, you can definitely tell that Lucki was starting to pop off in a big way, which was pretty surprising considering only a couple years ago, people mostly considered him fallen off. And because of his newfound popularity, Lucki was finally able to headline his own shows, which would cause a little bit of friction with his former collaborators, Uno the Activist and Thousand Band Fani, because they were now the openers for him as opposed to the other way around. And it seems like this caused a little bit of jealousy from them, with them actually taking it so far as to tell people that Lucki was faking his streams, which is definitely a pretty shitty thing to do to somebody who's supposed to be your friend. And while Lucki wouldn't say anything publicly about it at the time, it definitely changed his perspective on the two of them, with him looking back to the Carti beef and thinking that maybe they could have been in the wrong. I mean, after all, he could now see how jealous and petty that they get when somebody starts to get bigger than them. However, I do have to bring up the point that Uno was shot by an affiliate of the mob, so he definitely had a reason to be upset. However, I do see where Lucki is coming from as well. But just keep in mind this is only Lucki's side of things, because Uno and Fani have never publicly spoken about this before, so it's totally possible that he's making things up or that maybe he's trying to make himself look better in the situation. But either way, I'll play the voice clip right here and you can tell me what you think in the comments below.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna break down something easy like this, cause word, like, shit get lost in text, like, you feel me? Alright, so when we used to do them little tours, I used to perform before everybody. Me, then Warhol, then Uno, then Fani, or Uno and Fani and Switch. So like around the time when Freeway 3 and all that shit started happening, like, niggas started acting weird when it was time for them to open up for me, like real life. But I used to open up for niggas with smiles, like, no bad. But when it was time for niggas to open up for me, niggas started acting weird. Like, I remember when them niggas was happy they set a fucking lawn on fire and it went viral. Niggas going to Johnny like, wait, so you think Lucki streams on Freeway 3 was real first week, or he just lying? Like, niggas is fucking haters. That's why I really fell out with Carti, because I let niggas persuade me to think Carti was fool, because just because he started making money. Niggas is fucking haters. Stop letting them blind y'all with that underdog shit, bro. Niggas is haters, bro.
So after all of this went down, Lucki wouldn't really speak on it for a couple more years, never trying to get into beef with any other artist or rocking the boat in any way until around 2022. Because 2022 was really the year that Lucki went mainstream, with a couple of his tracks blowing up in a big way on TikTok, gaining him millions of streams on Spotify, and giving him a whole new fan base of white kids that he had never had before. And you can definitely tell that all this newfound fame and money would really start to change Lucki from a humble underground rapper who never really tried to get into beef to somebody who was constantly popping off on Twitter and fighting with everybody. And now that you have all of that context, we can really start to get into the beefs, because the first one pops off in 2022 when Lucki tweets out, "You know an N-word finish when they start rapping on yeet beats, like bruh, let the kids have something." Now this was initially meant to be a subliminal diss aimed at Thousand Band Fani, but apparently another collaborator of Lucki going by the name of Baby Smoove really took issue with it, with him immediately hopping on Twitter and firing back. He starts off by saying, "I ain't really hurt, shit scary for N-words, that soft ass N-word ain't talking about me, I stand on business and I'm richer and younger than nipples. I ain't spit on nipples in real life, I ain't trying to be cool, get your M's up and get your bodies up first. I ain't deleting shit, do something to me." Now I'm not really sure why Baby Smoove is trying to take this from 1 to 100, I mean after all, Lucki only made fun of people for using yeet beats and you don't even know if he's specifically talking about you. However, even though Lucki wasn't initially talking about Baby Smoove, it seems like he was perfectly happy to continue to shit on him by saying, "You're not richer than me, you got 5,000 for your last show," which in my opinion is pretty decent money. I mean, one performance for $5,000, but I guess when you're talking about millionaire rappers, 5,000 really isn't anything. After that, Baby Smoove will fire back by saying that he got $20,000 for his last show, which I mean, touche I guess, but it's kind of a weak response overall, and then after that, the beef would go cold for a couple months. However, it seems like Lucki was taking a page out of Academic's playbook, because in October, Baby Smoove ended up dropping a project called I'm Still Serious 2, which apparently underperformed a little bit, although once again, with him being an independent artist, we can't look at the sales data. But either way, Lucki would immediately hop onto this by tweeting out, "Damn, I hate to see an independent millionaire flop, go support please." And I think the reason that he did this is because he recently put out his own project called Flawless Like Me, and it streamed a lot better than Baby Smoove. But in my opinion, this is a pretty dangerous game to play, because once you start talking about numbers and shitting on people for having projects that underperform, the second second that you have a project that underperforms, everybody's going to be on your ass and clowning you for it. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, right around the same time, Trippie Redd was making fun of a bunch of artists for putting out projects that were flopping, and then immediately after that, he put out a project that underperformed, and then of course, everybody was clowning on him. But I mean, Lucki's up right now, so I guess he doesn't really care, and he probably thinks that he's never going to fall off. Immediately after that, Lucki would then put out a video where he addressed his fans, telling them that he never meant to get into a beef with Baby Smoove in the first place, but everything that he said about him was true, and he kind of doubled down on it. However, he would make it clear that the initial tweet was meant to poke fun at Thousand Band Fani and wasn't meant to take shots at Baby Smoove, as well as claiming that he tried to call Smoove on the phone to squash the beef and that the tweet wasn't about him, but Smoove never picked up, so that's why he decided to go back and forth with him on Twitter.
All a big misunderstanding, but look, I'm standing on everything I said with that individual. I'm just apologizing to my fans, because that shit sloppy, like, you feel me? Like, look, this shit came because I made that tweet. I'm gonna be real, I was talking about fucking Fani. That's what I was talking about. My problem with it is, because it's over, like, for real, I'm not acknowledging that shit no more, like, that shit beneath me. That's why I'm apologizing to y'all. Only reason I bent, no, don't say DM him. I DM'd him, as soon as I saw them tweets, I DM'd him my number, told him to call me immediately. He know me, he has my number. Like, but on some real life shit though. Only reason I even, like, just, like, got mad, because, like, hey, dude, like, you didn't even know, I didn't even know you dropped the song. You didn't even know, like, you know me. I'm, like, we really used to really be on a FaceTime with me, like.
And as far as the Fani beef, Lucki would clear that up a couple days later by saying, Thousand Man Fani, I'm sorry, I really was just high into my feelings and I wasn't myself, bro. You can rap over whatever beat you want. You invented a lot of this shit. I know I could have did this in private, but I'm gonna do it in the same place I did the lame shit. Please don't respond though, just be well and much love. And it seems like Fani must have accepted this apology because he never ended up speaking on it again publicly for at least a couple years. Although, to be honest with you, he probably could benefit quite a bit by beefing back and forth with Lucki, as after all, at this point, Lucki is huge and Thousand Man Fani is still pretty underground. But hey, Fani wanted to be the bigger man, and honestly, it goes to show that he's grown a lot as a person, because if this all went down in 2017, Fani definitely would have been pulling up to Lucki's house and shooting it up. However, it's unclear if Baby Smoove and Lucki ever ended up making up. There was a song between the two of them that leaked in 2024 called Quarter Mil, but that could have been recorded back in 2022, so at this point, we don't know if they're cool, but honestly, with everything that was said, I wouldn't be surprised if they're never cool again. And once again, this would start a period of peace between Lucki and all of his ops until around 2024, when he ended up getting into a massive beef with another underground artist going by the name of Destroy Lonely. Now, if you somehow don't know who Destroy Lonely is, he's an artist who signed to Carti's Opium label, and he's been blowing up in a big way for the past couple years. Although his entire movement would get kind of fucked up in 2024 when he was trying to roll out his third studio album, and he ended up getting hit with some not so savory allegations, when some paperwork would surface online showing that he had caught a battery charge, and it would later come out that the reason that he got this charge in the first place is because he got into a physical altercation with his ex-girlfriend, whose name is Aisha. And once this story broke online, fans would start to dig into it, eventually finding an old vlog from 2022 where Lucki could be seen in the studio alongside Aisha, which proved that Lucki was fucking with her way before her and Lonely ever started dating. But honestly, who gives a fuck? A lot of these girls fuck with a bunch of different rappers. It's really not all that surprising that she might have been hanging out with Lucki before she started dating Lone, and honestly, if that was the only detail that fans dug up, this beef probably would have never sparked off in the first place if it wasn't for the fact that Aisha ended up tweeting out that the reason that she ended up getting in a physical altercation with Lonely was because he was pissed off that she used to hang out with Lucki. Now, it's not really clear if Lone knew that she was fucking with Lucki before this point, or if he only got mad because she was listening to his music, as previously he had also got upset that she was listening to Don Toliver's music, going on to call him the F-slur because he often wore eyeliner and nail polish, which is pretty ironic considering that everybody in the Opium label also wears nail polish and pretends to be vampires, so I don't really think he has a whole lot of room to speak there, but well, that's how he felt. And this would lead Lucki to fire off a couple sneak disses on his next project called Gemini, with the track outro including a line saying, "If you don't look like Aisha, I don't trust you." And she would go on to share the song on her own story, quoting that very same line, confirming that he was talking about her. However, at the time, time, Lone was dealing with a lot of bad publicity coming from the allegations, as well as a video surfacing online of him trying to follow one of Aisha's friends into a bathroom, with her catching him on video and him begging her to delete it. The guy was losing aura left and right, and with everything going on at the time, if he had actually gotten to that beef with Lucki, Lucki would have had more than enough ammo to fire back at him. So instead, Lone decided to lay low and try to stay out of the public eye, hoping that all the heat that he was catching for the allegations would pass him by. However, things would start to pop off again in August when one of Lone's tracks ended up surfacing online, including a bar saying, "I surpassed all my favorite rappers, guess I'm lucky," which of course is a diss aimed at Lucki. And of course, this would catch the attention of Lucki, with him hopping on Instagram Live to go on a massive rant about Destroy Lonely, Opium, and even a little bit about Playboi Carti. He starts off by saying that he doesn't want to beef with rappers over girls, and he doesn't even really care about Aisha. He has a main girl that he cares about, and all his fans know it. He would also go on to say that it seemed like everybody in Opium was looking for convenient ops. They weren't fucking with anybody who was in Atlanta, and would instead try to fire shots at people who were from different cities. He would also reveal that apparently him and Carti had a little bit of friction because Lucki was working with an artist going by the name of Benji Bluebills, who Carti had problems with for some reason, before then going on to say that he doesn't understand why everybody in Opium wants to be gangsters so bad. They're already rappers, and being a rapper is way better than being a gangster, before then going on to say that nobody in Opium is gangster because they all wear eyeliner, nail polish, and even sometimes wear dresses.
Listen, somebody diss me. It say they surpassed their favorite rapper. They surpassed me, but like you signed to somebody. I don't even think you surpassed yourself yet. Like, can you go get like? I don't even think you got paid. Like, I think you're a good artist. I don't think you got paid at the true potential that you think you could get paid at. Like, I just saw a nigga cash out on the fucking on a Hellcat. And the second, we doing this because of a girl. I never dissed you. I never because of that girl. I never cared. Everybody know the girl I care about. But since you're doing that over the girl that she just brought my name up, I didn't even fuck her since you were like, I didn't even bother the girl. But your new girlfriend too, like, ask her about Lucki. Ask her about the guy you surpassed. She surpassed. Getting clout off niggas like ventures or something. Like, I'm really a multi-millionaire. Like, I want to see you surpass being a multi-millionaire, not being signed to a multi-millionaire, and the benefits that coming around like him being rich. I want to see you. You know. I don't want to be dissing each other over girls. I never gave a fuck about you. I never even like when the fans put me in the same category as you type of kids, because I'm not the same. Like, y'all be loafing too much. I'm gonna start just pulling up the big bro in them sessions. If I see you in there, I'm just going on you. Like, let's keep it PG. Let's not diss each other over girls. Let's keep it like, my voice cracking because I really want to be yelling. Like, y'all trying to beef with me over Benji. That nigga not even from Atlanta. Y'all trying to, at this point, I think niggas want convenient ops. Because this niggas in Atlanta y'all could be beefing with. Y'all trying to beef with me. You trying to beef with me because it's two bitches that you keep posting. But y'all trying to beef with me. I never said nothing about this. Y'all trying to beef with me because Benji dissed Carti and that type of shit. Like, you niggas just want convenient ops, gang. Like, I never really, like, I was trying to support y'all boss and everything while this shit was going on, make it seem like nothing would ever happen. Like, literally, gang, like you niggas crazy. And you niggas be like, it really be over. That's so weird, gang. Like, that's just confusing to me, man. You niggas be, but the first thing I told you niggas, like when we first talked, I said, why y'all want to be street niggas so bad? I'm like, I said that like we already rappers. It's not like we're already documented rappers. Why do you niggas want to, y'all paint y'all nails and wear dresses sometimes? How do you want to be a street nigga now?
And it seems like this really sparked a nerve, because Lum would immediately tweet out saying, "Boy, you ain't ever seen me in a dress, and you damn sure never scared me," with Lucki immediately replying saying, "We're rappers. We're not supposed to scare anyone. That's the point." And initially when I saw Lucki beefing with Destroy Lonely, I thought it was kind of corny for a near 30-year-old man to be beefing with an up-and-comer, but now that I see the full context of the situation, it's kind of nice to see that Lucki is actually trying to point him in the right direction. I really don't feel like Lucki is trying to get under his skin or diss him in any meaningful way. He really wants to see him do well and get away from all this petty drama and stupid shit that's going to derail his entire career. I mean, Lucki knows this well enough himself. When he was first blowing up, he got into a bunch of drugs and basically threw away all the opportunities that he had, and he probably doesn't want to see that happen to any other artist, so he's genuinely trying to put Destroy Lonely on a better path. But of course, with him being signed to Opium and having his brand brain completely fucked up with all that vampire shit, because Lone would immediately tweet out that he wanted to fight Lucki in real life, as well as revealing that he never meant for that song to come out in the first place, and that he had no interest in beefing with him on Twitter, even though he was continuing to beef with him on Twitter. And I think the reason Lone said this in the first place is because a lot of fans were accusing him of beefing with Lucki to try to get a little bit of clout online for his upcoming album. And I'm not really sure how to feel about that, because on one hand, Destroy Lonely is already massive, and with him being under the Opium label, he probably doesn't need promo for his project, but at the same time, we know everybody in the Opium label is extremely egocentric and very petty, so him putting out a supposed leaked song with a diss against Lucki is a good way to get back at him without really getting your hands dirty. I don't know, the timing on the entire situation is a little bit too convenient for me to really think that it could be a simple mistake, and at the same time, even if Lone never meant for this song to leak in the first place, it's not like he wasn't the one who recorded it. I mean, you made the song, own it, that's all I'm saying. He would then go on to tweet out that he was actually a fan of Lucki in the past and that he wasn't embarrassed about that, with Lucki then responding that he tried to reach out to Lone in the DMs but he wasn't answering him, yet he was still on Twitter tweeting time and time again trying to win the fans over. And of course, if there's any sort of Twitter beef going on between two different underground rappers, it's always going to catch the attention of Can, because at this point that's basically all he does is tweet at other rappers and try to start fights. And if you don't know about Can, he's somebody who used to work with Lucki pretty heavily back when he was a rapper, but at this point he no longer makes music and instead runs a fashion brand, yet is always involved in rapper beef, with him tweeting out that Lone wouldn't even have a fan base if he wasn't signed to Opium, which I do kind of agree with, before then going on to say that if Carti dropped him tomorrow he wouldn't have a fan base anymore, which I don't necessarily agree with. I mean, his fan base probably would shrink a little bit, but he definitely would still have fans. Once you reach a certain level of popularity, it's kind of hard to not be famous anymore, despite how much you might fall off, and I feel like Lone is right at the cusp of going mainstream, so even if Carti ended up dropping him, I think he would be okay. Lone would then respond to this by saying, "You were sending me beats since I was 13 years old, you loved me before and you're gonna love me again," with Can finally closing it off by saying, "Okay, I'm done trolling these cross-dressers," which honestly, once again, is a pretty weak response. I feel like Lone kind of cooked him with that last tweet and he didn't really have anything to say. And you would think that'd be the end of it. I mean, after all, it's already a pretty big deal for somebody from Opium to be beefing with another artist. For the most part, they always try to keep things on the down low, they never really acknowledge anything, so for Lucki to be beefing with Destroy Lonely is a pretty crazy sight to see. However, things get even crazier only a couple weeks after that, because it seems like Playboi Carti was actually a little bit bothered by that one comment that Lucki made about all of them wearing dresses. Although initially he didn't say anything until Lucki ended up posting a picture of a new chain that he got, which was a cross, with him saying "crosses up." And it seems like for some reason Carti thought this was aimed at him, as after all, basically everybody in Opium runs with upside down crosses, as well as that whole demonic wave. But at the same time, there's plenty of people in the rap game who run with that demonic style, and it's not like it's only Playboi Carti and Opium who are doing it. But despite that, Carti got in his feelings and would immediately start to make us think about it, with him hopping in the comments of his burner Instagram account saying, "Just because I like your music doesn't mean I fuck with you." And this would cause a bunch of speculation from the fan base wondering who Carti was talking about, but it seems like he wasn't happy to simply sneak diss Lucki and he wanted to make it a little bit more public, with him immediately hopping on his Instagram account and posting a bunch of stories flexing new jewelry, which really isn't all that out of the ordinary for any mainstream rapper, but he would then take it to the next level by posting a bunch of DMs between him and Lucki. Now, when looking at these screenshots, it makes it seem like Lucki is basically glazing Carti the entire time, talking to him over and over again without getting any responses. But once you look at it a little bit closer, you see that Lucki is actually responding to something, meaning that Carti must have deleted his side of the conversation, which I'm not really even sure why he decided to do that. I mean, you're gonna get called out for that, and it comes off as extremely petty. And Lucki would immediately respond to all of this by hopping on his own story and posting a video, basically telling Carti to keep the Lord's name out of his mouth.
No. Don't be no Jesus lover now. You niggas don't love Jesus. You niggas don't love Jesus.
After that, he would post the other side of the DMs, which of course I really don't know why Carti didn't think this would happen. After that, Lucki would then post another video explaining why Carti was mad in the first place, which I'll play right here.
Upside down cross to my neck. But it wasn't that though. I was just I just bought a chain and I was saying crosses up. You just insecure because you don't love Jesus like that.
And then after that, he ended up posting a picture of Carti from 2018 where he can be seen wearing a shirt that says I love Jesus, basically proving that Carti sold his soul for a little bit of clout, or a lot of clout, let's be honest. Soon after that though, Lucki would attempt to pull back on the beef a little bit by saying that he could never have beef with Carti because the two of them slept on the floor together, and despite the fact that he loved Jesus, he was still YVL, which stands for Young Vampire Life, because of course it does. Immediately after that, Carti would post this video where he was talking about how Lucki should have signed to Opium, as well as flexing a car.
Come on, though. Come on. Yeah. No. Feel that. Bitch, heavy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes, they got the.
Feel me? Yeah. Shane Oliver, you know what I'm saying? Big white tee. Got this shit from the gas station. Pro Club Gang, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to my nigga David, you know what I mean? Holy Week, Sessions Dell, Filthy, OG, just went #1, I was finna go #1 again. Shout out to the whole SO. Then, I gotta show you my car. Nigga just gave me a new car. Check this out real quick. Oh, don't forget the truck, and get that. Okay, we back here. Maybach, come with a blunt. Maybach, come with a blunt. Maybach, come with a blunt.
Which is pretty crazy to see. I mean, it's one thing to get Carti talking on his own story, but for him to film a whole video because he's mad at you is almost unheard of. And this kind of reminds me of when Rich the Kid was trying to get Lil Uzi Vert to sign to Rich Forever. I mean, I understand why Carti would want Lucki on the label, but I don't think him signing to it would have helped him out at all. I mean, Carti is definitely still a lot bigger than Lucki, but Lucki has managed to get himself to such a level of fame completely independently that's almost unheard of in the underground. I mean, yeah, if Lucki ended up signing to Opium, he probably could do a couple bigger shows than what he's doing right now, but I think I'd rather have control over my own music and art than being signed to the vampire cult where basically everybody is in the shadow of Carti. I mean, I straight up think that Ken Carson is a much better rapper than Carti and he's a lot more consistent, so I feel like him being signed to Opium is actually holding him back, but it seems like Ken doesn't feel the same way because he actually ended up sharing that very same story, once again saying that Lucki should have signed to Opium. After that, a producer going by the name of Little88, who has worked with Carti heavily in the past, went on to say that Lucki isn't YVL. After that, Lucki would go on to tweet time and time again, basically trolling all of Opium's fans by saying that Carti didn't love Jesus over and over and over again, probably just appreciating the fact that he was actually able to publicly beef with Carti. However, apparently not everybody felt the same way, because one of Lucki's collaborators going by the name of Veeze would tweet out saying that everybody needed to stop with the fake beef because the fans depended on them. And honestly, bro, shut the fuck up. There's always one of these guys every time two rappers start beefing. Hey man, it used to all be about the music. Why is it not about the music? Bro, get off your high horse. We already know that the entire music industry is basically built off of drama, beef, and a bunch of shenanigans. I know the music is important in some aspects, but for the most part, the music industry really isn't about the music, let's be honest. After that, Fonny would randomly get involved by calling Lucki a glazer, and honestly, it's kind of corny for him to take Carti's side. I thought you two had beef, but now you're mad at Lucki because he ended up saying something about you a couple years ago. Bro, just stay out of this one, let's be honest. And then surprisingly, the producer Filthy, who Lucki actually has an entire album with, would end up sharing the story of Carti saying that Lucki should have signed to Opium, which once again, I really don't know why you're trying to get involved. I mean, you could play both sides and work with both people. Taking a side on this is really not going to help you out. But that goes to show exactly how the music industry is. I mean, Carti is definitely in the wrong here. He ended up getting his feelings hurt about absolutely nothing, and now Lucki is trolling him. But despite that, everybody is taking Carti's side because he has more clout. So just remember, if you ever want to win a rap beef, just be way more popular than the person that you're beefing with, and everybody will take your side. And this would finally all end off when Lucki ended up posting a picture of the very same cross chain that got Carti so heated in the first place, basically showing that he wasn't taking any of this seriously whatsoever and was only enjoying the Twitter spat for the day that it was active. And honestly, I think there's a much deeper reason for why Carti got so mad at Lucki in the first place. I think it's because for years and years and years, he was the biggest out of everybody from his original friend group, and while he ended up fucking them all over back in the day, nobody really cared because he was so much bigger than them. But now that Lucki's starting to gain a lot more clout and becoming a much bigger artist himself, Carti is starting to feel a little bit insecure that Lucki might actually surpass him, which I don't think is ever going to happen, don't get me wrong. Carti is one of the biggest artists in the entire world, and I don't think Lucki is anywhere near that level. But I really do feel like Carti kind of fucked up by getting into this beef, because all all he really did was put more eyes on Lucki and his music, not to mention spark some more conversation about how he fucked all of these guys over back in the day. So honestly, he probably should have stayed silent on the whole thing and nothing would have came of it, but it seems like Carti's starting to get a little bit insecure, and as many of these guys that he used to fuck with back in the day get bigger and bigger, we might start to see more and more crash outs just like this. But with all of that covered, we can now move into the final beef between Lucki and the aforementioned Veeze. It's kind of funny how he said that he didn't want people to get into fake ass beefs, and then he immediately gets into a fake ass beef with Lucki. So this basically all sparked off when the two of them ended up unfollowing each other on Instagram, and a couple fans ended up noticing and asking them what went down, with Veeze eventually posting a vague tweet where he says, "These rap nipples be hating on me, I'm trying not to spaz on them." And of course this led fans to further speculate that he might be talking about Lucki, but Lucki would immediately hop on his story and clear it up, saying that he got into a little bit of a spat with Veeze, but at the end of the day they're still brothers and nothing can tear them apart.
Get the best of me in this situation. See, I ain't say no fluky shit. That's my dog. I mean, such shit don't happen. You feel me? Cause we human, but that's my dog. It'll never.
But apparently Veeze didn't feel the same way, with him immediately hopping on Instagram live and saying that Lucki stole his swag and that he couldn't fuck with them because of that.
Starting to feel like y'all confused or y'all don't know too much about what's going on, but like, don't get who steal my sauce confused with me stealing their sauce. I don't do that.
And honestly, it's kind of sad to see because Lucki never ended up responding to this in any way, and if Veeze had kept his mouth shut, they probably still could have been cool. I mean, this whole stealing swag thing is very corny, and I don't understand why people still run with it in 2025. I mean, every single artist out there has taken a little bit of inspiration from somebody else. Space Ghost Perp is seen as one of the most influential artists to ever live in the underground, and he even took a little bit of his style from Dipset, and then I'm sure Dipset ended up taking a little bit of their style from somebody else, and so on and so on. But for some reason, Veeze is very upset about this, and it seems like Lucki isn't really going to speak on it any further, so that's the end of that beef. And before we close it off, I also want to cover a somewhat beef that happened between Lucki and Juice WRLD. Basically, back in 2017, before Juice popped off in any way, he ended up reaching out to Lucki to buy a feature, with the two of them agreeing on $200, but well, Lucki never ended up delivering on that feature, so by the time that Juice WRLD actually popped off, he decided to reach out to him again, basically telling him, "Hey man, you scammed me back in the day, but I don't really care." And apparently Lucki thought that Juice WRLD was a different artist that he scammed back in the day, so he would immediately get very angry and tell Juice to suck his dick. And you would think after something like that, the two of them would never be cool again, but it seems like once again, Juice was the bigger person, immediately reaching out to him again, saying, "Hey man, I know you're in your feelings, you're probably off of drugs, and once again, I don't really care that you're dissing me or that you scam me." And eventually they became friends in real life, with Juice WRLD going around and telling everybody that Lucki was his favorite artist of all time. So it's not like the beef was ever all that serious, but I still thought it was kind of funny to cover because it goes to show that even people like Juice WRLD can fall for scams, and not every small artist that ends up getting taken advantage of is a complete dumbass.
And I finessed it for a feature, right? But it was cheap, like $200, $300 type shit. This when we both was teenagers, right? And so then when he blew up, he DM'd me like, yo, bro, yada yada, that shit, this, that. Like, but I don't really care about it. But I thought he was another person, right? So then I'm like, bro, eat a dick, yada yada. Because that person that I thought he was, he finessed me in a way, you know? So I'm like, bro, eat a dick. Like, I'm basically saying, like, it's still up there. But he was funny, so I'm like, eat a dick. But then, when I found out that it wasn't that person, I felt like a dickhead, but I got too much pride to, like, DM, like, hey, bro, like, at the time I had too much pride. I'm like, yo, bro, my bad, bro. Yeah, I ain't realized that was you. But he's such a good person. He ain't even like care. He realized like, he already knew. Like he was like, that's why I DM'd you inside. I didn't care about it, bro. Cause come on, I get how like you, bro. I realized like you was just off the Zans trying to get some. You was a kid trying to get some money.
But with that said, that's the many beefs of Lucki. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 30K. Shout out to Knife Gang. Shout out to Delete This Gang. But fuck all that. We got a new gang. I want everybody to comment, what does this channel become? Because that's the new gang. What does this channel become, gang? I don't know. Anyways, guys, see you in the next one. Peace out. Bye.